Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of FRO. Welcome to what is now Season 11, I believe, Round 2 here at Valencia for the Pro-Am Championship. One of the championships that are running on multiple servers, being Intermediate A, I believe, Intermediate B, Pro, Rookies, and then there's the Alien class as well. I believe the Alien and Pro class are now merged for today's race, so that might be something that might happen with these servers soon. Don't quote me on that just yet, but at the moment it does seem to be still going quite strong. Seems 22 drivers are in the circuit as we come on to qualifying now. Everyone does seem to be saying their first laps or so. Daniel and Trabaglio currently on pole with 152.4. I believe that will be able to come down as the track gets a bit better in terms of track condition, and when the drivers be able to set more and more laps, as we already do see currently as we're on board with, is Tarrant, who's already about 6.5 tenths up in his first best lap time, and he's only a 10.5 down on Daniel Trabaglio's time, so he might be able to actually creep into those 31s here as he goes through the final corner. Now needs to try to get quite a good exit. It does seem there's a bit of traffic in front of him. Doesn't seem it's going to have to affect him now. Comes across the line, and it does going to be pole position provisionally with a 151.9, but we also do see as well Jeremy Gore going behind him with 152.2, but we also do see as well Daniel Trabaglio, the person who was on pole provisionally for about a lap or two, now going through what seems to be going into sector 3 now, 5 tenths up on his personal best lap time so far. Might even be able to creep back onto pole position if he's able to maintain about 5.5 tenths onto his personal best delta. At the moment he's not being able to withstand that. It's going to be at least second position, but at the moment he is losing time going on to the straight, not getting the best of exit. It is going to be place 2 there for him with 151.995, slotting the two McLarens up into P1 and P2, separated by 700th of a second there, followed then by Eckering currently in P3, sorry, in a 51 car of the Ferrari 296 of the AF Corsa livery. And hopefully now, actually, as we did suffer an issue last time about, well regarding liveries, hopefully that should all have been sorted here. I did spend quite a bit of time. It does seem, yeah, there's a few liveries that are synced, I believe, but the one that I do look at is going to be, I know this, yeah, every one of them should have been synced by now. You see Daniel Trabaglio in the FMP Italia livery, probably one of my favourite liveries at the moment. I haven't been able to see all of them. I remember he was able to have quite a good livery as well last time around. I did sync them just before the server went live, so we can see it has worked because a few of the liveries are actually synced. Seems though Mickey Taylor doesn't have his livery sword, I believe, going up across the line now, 1.8 seconds up. He's only going to go up what seems to be 3 positions there, going up into P16 with 133.6. Might not be the strongest track here for Mickey Taylor, but hopefully he can try dent on that time quicker and quicker. This is a very Marmite track, which is a very British abbreviation, as we do also see Daniel Trabaglio coming across the line now, 1.5 tenths up. But it's not going to be enough to put him in pole, but it is going to be enough to put him into P2, not comfortably, I would say, only a 400th of a second or so between P2 and 3 with a 151.8. But yeah, the British abbreviation of Marmite is probably what this track is kind of like for ACC. You either love the track or you hate it. There doesn't seem to be much of an in-between here. It's the same with Pacer as well. It does seem this server doesn't seem to be too bad. It seems most of the drivers are within the 32s, 33s. There's a few outstanders in the 34s and the 31s. So it is quite similar in terms of pace, which is good to see here for an hour race. Luckily, it's an hour here tonight and not 90 minutes because I am honestly ill. I am super ill here tonight, so my voice will be suffering a tiny bit. Hopefully, it won't be for that long now. Jim Emanuelus going through the final corner, 7 tenths up on here on his personal best lap time. Might be able to put him up into P7 if he's lucky. He comes across the line here to go up to P6 with a 152.2. So we can actually see he did go down a position there, as we do see Eckering now as well up on his first best lap time. But it did seem Jamie Edwards, who was actually pretty good during the first round and the round opener, I believe. I'm not sure what happened, but I did see his name towards the front. If that changed throughout the race, I'm not too sure. So I have kind of forgotten, unfortunately. Taron once again in the GE racing livery. 5.5 attempts up on his best lap time going through. Now the final corners of what I believe is going to be sector 2 going on to sector 3. Does seem he goes wide there, and he is going to abandon his lap. With only 5 minutes of qualifying remaining, it's probably not the best idea to do it any later than he is now. Might be able to get about 3 or so laps in. Obviously the max wait time, it will also benefit those drivers who are on that part of the track where they can benefit with it, and potentially even get an extra lap from some of the drivers if they're on the right positionment of the track. As well as going down Sunderbockhoven in the West McLaren F1. It doesn't seem that's loaded either, or has it? No, it has. I'm confused on what's really happened with the liveries here. But they have loaded, because we can see Daniel Trabeglou has loaded, so I'm not sure what's happened in terms of Awesome Sim Racing. Tommy Griffiths and the team WRT. BMW M4. Does seem to be up on his pitch best lap time, but it is very fractional how much he is up. As well as that, going further down as well, we do see Basari coming across the line as well. Let's go up any positions. Yes, he is. He's going to go up a few positions there, going from P14 to P7 there. Going up a whopping 7 position to a 132.1, just on the boundary there of the 32s and the 31s. Track not going to be able to improve in track conditions, to my knowledge. It might still be a tiny bit too early into qualifying to be able to determine that, and it's only a short qualifying session as well, with 15 minutes and obviously the first lap or so, and there's going to be a lot of time faffing in the pits, and there's not many drivers as well, 23 to be exact. Now it does seem people have joined during qualifying, so that's always good to see that more and more people are joining. Craig Hill was on for a good lap, and it does seem, just before I went onto his camera, he did invalidate it going into the end of sector 2 there, unfortunately there for him. But we do see, though, now a new contester trying to put a bit of pressure there on pole position of Weezer, who has just changed for the lead, yeah, with a 131.4 in that Bentley 426. As well as that, he is going to lose quite a bit of his lap time going through into sector 3. He is able to hold it off, actually just a tiny bit. Goes through the final corner. Still 3.5 tenths up to his lap time, but is it going to be enough for pole position? No, it is not, but he is going to significantly close that gap between him and the leader there, with about now 600th of a second, more or less, between them both. However, we also do see Slutel, I believe is how you say it, in the Gazelle Motorsports livery as well, on P5, looking to improve his lap time with currently 4 tenths on his personal best delta. If he needs 4 tenths to actually try and take pole position. Losing quite a bit of lap time though, going through the final few corners of the S's. Will he gain it back on the final corner? Does seem he's going to have a bit of traffic, might affect him in the dirty air. Shouldn't be too bad though, but he isn't going to have enough to take pole position, but he might be able to improve. He does improve into P4 with a 151.732, but it's still 2 3/4 of a tenth off P1 there. And so he is actually improving once again going into turn 1, but he might have an unlucky lap here with the traffic of the other Porsche 992, which I believe might be... that's not going to be Matthew. That is going to be Matthew Reynolds there in the Reynolds OLR livery. Is what happened there? I'm not even sure what happened between there with the 992 of Sattel. He just goes off, sliding off the road as Craig Hill was able to regain P4 from Sattel, going back up into P4 with 151.585. But we do see Weezer trying to extend the gap between him and P2 and the rest of the field even. Now with a 2.5 predicted improvement to his lap time, going through the S's now. Very tricky corner if you get it wrong. It does seem he gets it quite wrong there, but is able to still improve. He was able to keep it off the gravel, which is the most important part. But that's something we will talk about later, if that does affect any of the drivers going through the final corner as well. He is going to take the checkered flag here for qualifying with a 151.2, as well as we do see Daniel Trabanglo, who isn't actually going to be improving at all, but he will take the checkered flag to provisionally take P2. We might be able to see the names of Schiabel or Craig or any of the others further down the grid that we haven't featured too much during today's qualification. However, the BMW M4 row racing of Kenneth Rise, I believe is how you say it, currently 5.5 tenths up in his first best lap time. I actually might be able to take him up quite a few positions, potentially P6 if he's lucky. Going into the final corner, needs to try and nail this final corner to try and get a good exit. Does seem he did lose a bit of time going through the S's, but he does gain a bit of that time back going through the final corner as he does go into start finish straight, losing fractional amounts of time, but goes up into P6 as I predicted he would be able to do with 151.8. A very good lap there from him, as we do see that is going to be the end of qualifying. There's only a few cars still to qualify. So he is just going to pull up before the line, which is very annoying because it won't skip onto the next session. But we also see Bockhaven as well going on to stay in the same position he is currently in. In terms of qualification, it was quite a short qualification because I had to redo my stream stuff because my SSD broke, which isn't great, but we are still here as we do wait now for the server to switch over. It should take about a minute or so if everything goes smoothly, as we do see someone's been able to put an entire car name in as their YouTube username, Porsche 911 GT3 RS. Welcome on into the chat. Seems more love for Bockhaven. Reminds me of a certain driver, I think it was Donazo last season, who had the most amount of support in the chat. But what we do have to do, as we usually do, we will do our quick little grid walk. Hopefully we have time to do the entire grid here tonight before the race. It is what I did see earlier was a bit of rain in the practice server, which it always makes it a bit interesting to see what the weather of the actual server will be like. But at the moment, it does seem to be quite dry, so hopefully it might stay like that for the entire race. We'll make it interesting. If not, though, go on to the game as we do see Weezer in P1 in that Bentley, followed then by Schiabel and Daniel Trambaglio in the 2. McLaren taking P2 and P3, then followed by, we do see Craig Hill in the 888 BMW M4 taking P4, as well as Sattel taking P5 in the 992, who was robbed of P4 on the end of qualifying, followed then by Rice in the BMW M4, who had a great last lap, being able to go from, I believe it was P14 or so to P6, followed then by Basari and Onaka, both in the Ferrari 296s, taking P7 and 8 of the 102 and the 666. Then followed by Jamie Edwards in the 6 Ferrari 296, as well as Ruddy Wicks, I believe it is, in the 23 Ferrari 296, taking P10. Going outside of the top 10 now, we do see Gore in the 720 BMW M4, followed by Eckering and Emanuelson, running out into the unlucky number of P13. Bockhaven, in the 42 McLaren 720S, taking P14, followed then by Poulin in the 592 Ferrari 296, as well as Salia, Munich and Mark GG rounding out the top 18, followed then by Griffiths, as well as Van Loo Reynolds, Mickey Taylor in the 197. And then we do see Eklund as well, rounding out the entire field here for tonight at Valencia for round 2. So we get ready to go green here for the formation lap. As we do now see, everyone should be off the jacks by now. We only have 5 seconds until the formation lap is led. Quite a short track here to, well, to be honest, it's about, what's it, a minute and a half, more or less. So this should be around a 3 or 4 minute formation lap. This track is quite interesting now. Sorry, I had a bit of a break to get a bit of water. But this track is quite interesting when it comes to actually racing this track. We do see that Bentley being on the pole position there in that Flex Performance livery. It is quite interesting to see a car like the Bentley actually being able to take pole from, let's say, the newer generation cars like the McLarens, for example, which are very, very good aero-wise, and especially going through corners, which is practically most of this track. There's obviously that one big straight at the start / finish line, but that's not really as big of a straight to actually benefit you massively throughout this entire lap. But in terms of it, the Bentley being able to take pole position does surprise me. But the McLarens might be able to fight back throughout the race. Obviously, it's an hour, so there is still quite a bit of time. So also those Ferrari 296s as well. We do see the 4 scoured from P7 to P10 there, which is quite a few. And then there's another little scout here from P15 to P17. So there is quite a few Ferrari 296s. And you can tell when they're in quite similar paces, because they're in these little, well, you could say herds of cars here. Because they are probably running similar setups, or identical if they're using paid setups, or if they're on the same team and they've developed the setup together. As we do now see the formation lap is coming to the end here, as we do see now the formation goes side by side, getting ready to go green here for round 2 of the Pro-Am Championship here at FRL. One corner and then start finish straight to go. Then we're here for an hour of action, hopefully, by the 23 drivers that are present for today's race. Bentley having to try get a good start to try and jump any of these cars yet. To go on boards with him as we do now go green. So we do see he gets quite a good start there compared to the rest of the cars. It doesn't seem the McLarens are able to make a jump for it just yet. He has the inside line, which is a very, very good advantage going around this track. It does seem there was almost contact there between the two of the McLaren and the Bentley. He is able to still gain it, as we do see there is a huge contact there going further down. There is going to be a few cars, so we'll get a quick replay on what happened there going further down. There's a bit of sweeping there from a Ferrari, it seems to be, of Eckering. He goes into turn 1, gets a bit of contact there between him and the M4, but does go straight across the track once again, causing other cars having to avoid them at their own risks. And that is going to put Eckering and the other driver in the BMW M4 down quite a few positions and have that damage as well as Weezer, as we can see in that Flex Performance. Bentley is now under a bit of pressure from those two McLarens, who have started to create a tiny bit of a gap for themselves going into the first lap of this race. Which does concern you a tiny bit to see how different the pace is, because from P2, well, from P1 to P4, there is now a 1.3 second gap. As you can see already on the map, it's starting to formulate. So let's go further down. Mark GG in the Greg's livery, which unfortunately doesn't seem to be loaded. I'm not sure why. Is under a bit of pressure from Emmanuelson behind him. It's very weird seeing Emmanuelson in the McLaren 720S this season. We do see Jamie Edwards as well, starting to create a tiny bit of gap for himself. Now 5/10. We do see as well the two BMW M4s actually put, well, they were actually going to go side by side going through the final corner, but we do see he's going to have the slipstream there as well as they go side by side nearly. Go into the start-finish straight, going into turn 1. He isn't going to have enough of a runoff, though, to actually be able to get past him swiftly. And that's the thing with GT3 cars. It's quite difficult to overtake because you don't have those assists like in F1, for example, where you have the ERS and the DRS, which makes overtaking significantly easier, and it does make the action a bit better. As we do see Matthew Reynolds as well being able to have the huge advantage there of having the inside line going into turn 2. So there's actually going to be a tiny bit of contact there between what seems to be Mickey Taylor and what seems to be the Ferrari of, I'm going to say, that might be, I think that's Basari or Onaka. They are going to try put a bit of pressure under him. He is going to have the door wide open though for the AF Corsa Ferrari 296. So he is going to go up. It's Echoing is trying to already make a bit of a trek for himself. He's been able to do it quite well after having the unfortunate start of this race. He's had already putting Munich in the dust. Going into now what seems to be turn 8. He does have now the better advantage. Going on to that start-finish straight, if he's able to maintain about a 10th gap or so between them both, which is something to take into consideration as well. As he does seem now Bockhoven was able to leap what seems to be sorry for position now, again putting that pressure on Reynolds while trying to, at least it does seem, because of that balance they had, there's going to be a contact between them both. As we do see, there's going to be another late lunge there from Basari going up the inside, going on to the start finish straight. As we already see Bockhoven going into the pits to take an early pit stop with obviously the mandatory pit stop. It is going to throw a huge spanner into the works for the drivers, because so much stuff can actually go wrong at a very, very quick pace, as you can accidentally speed in the pit lane. We have seen it before, especially in last season when we did see quite a few stop go 30s and drive-throughs for speeding in the pit lane, and even disqualifications I've seen in the past just for people accidentally not having the pit limiter on when leaving the pits as well, because sometimes there is a tiny bit of a bug, especially in the driver swap department, is when you try to go, it just deactivates the pit limiter and it just loses you obviously so much time from those penalties, and it could even cost your race as well with the disqualification penalty that could be applied because of it. Weezer here still under a bit of pressure here from what seems to be Chabelle, and then Trimbaglia behind him as well. So the two McLarens seem to be able to keep up with P1 of the Bentley of the Flex Performance. So he is now going to have the better advantage, because that, even though Weezer's car of the Bentley is quite large, it's still able to have quite a high top end speed. As we do see there's a bit of swerving to try break the slipstream. It did work, as we do see there has been a change in purple laps now, as it does seem Chabelle was able to take it with a 151.3 compared to Weezer's 151.9. So there is quite a significant pace difference between those two, and it does seem Trembaglio is also starting to fall off a tiny bit. See, he did do a 152.1 as his best lap time, so he is a significant, he's nearly actually second off P2's pace at the moment. As we do see, because he's only close, because it does seem these two are fighting for too long, and that has actually caused him now that small little bout that we did just see between Chabelle and the Bentley of Weezer has actually caused him to gain a significant amount of time even before start finish straight, which has caused now Weezer have a tiny bit of a break from that battle, which has now caused Chabelle to have this risk, and he accepts the risk when trying to get past Bentley, as he's going to lose a lot of time to the car behind him, which we can see has happened now. So they are just all over the rear of each other, but does seem actually that Daniel Trembaglio making quite a big mistake as well as Emmanuelson now losing the position to seeing Griffiths, as well as we could see it with Poulin as they go side by side going in to the S's. They're still side by side. Here there's a tiny bit of contact, as we did just see, as he is going to have the inside line there. Emmanuelson getting it back. Is there going to be a switchback? Yes, there is. Is it going to be effective? No, it's not. They are still going to go side by side. It's not going to be close enough though for him to get back, as he might get a tiny bit of side draft here. He does have the inside line though to take into consideration here for Poulin going into turn 1. He does just slip it into the inside there for him, and he has been able to get past quite effectively there. As we do see now, Emmanuelson goes down into P12 and Poulin goes up into P11, but this battle might not be over, as we do see what seems to be, is that Mickey Taylor? I'm not sure who that might be. I believe that might be Bockhoven. Yes, it is Bockhoven, who did just do their pit stop. As well as Gore, it seems 2 people already doing their pit stop into the early stages of this race, as it's only for fuel, so there is a max. I think there is a fixed amount of time you have to spend in the pits, which I believe is 25 seconds. I might be getting that wrong. Though, so it is obviously still quite a long pit stop, even if you do just try to do that splash and dash. Do you now see what seems to be Eckering getting these moves done as quickly as he can after the incident? He does have a bit. That was a very, very close move there from a pit maneuver, but it does seem Eckering was able to get the move done and then unfortunately lose it again. It just breaks very, very late there, going into the final few corners of sector 2 there, and he has lost a load of positions because of it, going down into P20. There's going to be a tiny bit of contact there between the Ferrari of Onaka, and that is going to be as well Bockhoven, but they managed to save it as well, as I thought there was going to be a straight pit maneuver. It does seem there's going to be retaliation completely there from what seems to be Munich. It might be, and Munich is going to have a severe punishment because of that, and he has unfortunately paid the price of now going down quite a few positions. So as this, Weezer and Chabelle both still at it for the lead of this race as we go into the first 10 minutes now of racing. As we do also see, is that Daniel Trambaglio once again catching up? Yes, it is. Daniel Trambaglio, who's able to catch up once again, could actually make a bit more pressure onto this battle for top 3, as we can also see Craig Hill is getting closer as well for it. As well as this now, it does seem Weezer is being able to create a tiny bit of a gap for himself of what seems to be 6/10 already, just because of Daniel Trambaglio being able to catch up once again, as we do see what happened to be Basari losing the position well to what seems to be Van Loo going into turn 1. Is there going to be a switchback? Yes, there is. How effective is it going to be? Not effective at all, it seems. So we do now see Van Loon going up into P14 there, but however, it's not over yet. As we do see now Lucas Basori being able to go for the inside line going into turn 3. It's not going to be effective. This guy got to be a switchback going through turn 4. There is, but it does seem Van Loon was able to glue the door shut there going into turn 5. And now it has caused a single file to start once again, as we do see as well. Well, I believe it's Matthew Reynolds behind him, being able to catch up because of this retaliation between these two. He does go for a late break going into turn 6, but at the moment, turn 7, turn 8 and turn 9, he might be at even more risk than he was before. Now here, Basari, because he's being able to go wide there. What seems to be, what's that? That's going to be Van Loo going very wide going into what seems to be turn 9, I believe, and that is going to be able to cause Matthew Reynolds and the Ferrari of Basari to be able to get past once again. 49 minutes left of this race. We're all starting to get a bit isolated here throughout the pack. It does seem we're actually losing battles at quite a significant rate, but this isn't one we have lost just yet. So we do see, wow, Sertel obviously lost that position to Kenneth earlier. We can see Sertel's car all over the rear of Kenneth's, the MW M4, but had a bit of a moment there going through what seemed to be turn 5. But now he has started to create a bit of a gap now, Kenneth. But this is going to cause Vettel to be under this much more pressure than he was before. Now he's also started to create a tiny bit of a gap. It's not much of a gap, but what has happened there? That's Mark GG going straight into the stands trap, going into what I believe is going to be turn 7 and 8. But we do now see him going through turn 7. He just tries to get a bit power thirsty, it seems, onto the throttle, causing him to have an oversteer moment, because that 992 is so bad when it comes to oversteer. It's a very oversteer dominant car, and it's very, very difficult to drive if you're not used to a car like it. But if you're good at driving it, then you're very, very good at it. Do you see as well? Basari being able to now try to do a switchback for position number 13 from Eklund. He's now going to have such a strong slipstream going into the start finish straight. He is going to go for the inside line here. Is he going to be able to get the move done before the inside line, before the start of turn 1? No, he's not, but it does seem we do see Eklund going very, very wide there. But obviously a lot of that is still track claim. It's going all the way onto the AstroTurf there, which is kind of weird if you ask me, but it is the track limits. But any other corner, especially turn 3, is so strict on track limits, and turn 2 is quite strict as well. In terms of that, thinking about 46 minutes left, we do see Eklund going quite wide, trying to keep his position. Obviously it didn't work, but that could have cost him a track cut there going into turn 1, as we saw earlier, which is another factor that does lead us on to this race. Valencia being such a strict track limits can see a lot of, oh my god, there's actually going to be contact there between both of them, as Eklund is going to be able to still maintain P13, I believe. Yeah, as we have had a disconnect actually. I'm not sure who disconnected, but it was P14. It just goes onto the gravel trap going into the S's before the final corner, and that's going to lose him so much time there. Unfortunately, therefore, Eklund going down into P15 and now having what seems to be Onaka all over his rear as well. No, that's not going to even be Onaka. He's gone so far down actually. I'm not sure who that actually is. So well as that, now do you see the Bentley will be able to get closer with it. He's going to go straight for the inside line once again, Reynolds, but we do see there's a big lunge there from Van Loo along the outside line, but overbroke himself, almost just taking all of the track of the outside line. Jeffrey saying Bockhoven in P22. Yes, he is indeed. He is one of the only 2 actually that have done their pit stop, so that is why he is lower down than he was during qualifying. But he might be able to make a significant gain in terms of how many positions he can actually gain with that undercut. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see him at least in the top 10 because of his strategy, if it actually works. We do see there was a momentary yellow flag there. Not sure who that was by, but it does seem to have been sold now. As well as that, do you see once again Weezer still being able to hold off Schiabel for position. Do obviously see in terms of consistency, Weezer must be good with consistency at the moment. In terms of his last lap, he was able to do 1:53.1, but we do see Schiabel is still quicker by a whopping 0.3 with a 1:52.8. So Schiabel is still the quicker driver even with him being behind Weezer, which does show you that Weezer's being able to defend at quite a efficient rate and being able to do it effectively as well. He's going to go straight for the inside line as well, because we already know that the McLaren's going to be able to get that over speed quite quickly going on to the start-finish straight, and being able to, well, preserve the inside line is always a good thing, but it doesn't seem the overspeed actually hit him as hard as it did a few laps ago, as we do see it now. As well, Trembaglio and Craig Hill also catching up for what is going to be the P1 train. What was that? We do go further down as well. We do see Jamie Edwards starting to go all over the rear of Sattel. Once again, these three have actually been fighting for quite some time. We do see Kenneth as well, actually under pressure from Sattel now, going on to the start-finish straight. No, that isn't going to be the start-finish straight, actually. I believe that is actually going to be turn 7, and he is going to still be in the inside line there, Sattel, but it's still not going to be enough just yet. But actually now having the better line going through turn 7 is going to help him out significantly, but still having the front of his car out, and we do see Sattel making quite a big error there going into turn 9 is going to cause Kenneth to still have that position. He is very, very lucky to still be having P5 here. Raise after what was almost going to be a perfectly executed move by Sattel, but going very, very wide, almost getting eager on the throttle and just going too late on the brakes just caused him to go wide. But we do see, once again, this battle is starting to approach again. You do see Weezer still having to defend for his life with 41 minutes left to go. We do see there is going to be another battle going through as well, with Craig Hill and Daniel Trembaglio all in the radius of about 3 cars. Well, about 3/10 even as well, as we do see now they have actually battled a bit too hard, which is going to now cause Taron and Daniel Trembaglio to catch up with one another, and that is also going to cause them to go side by side and almost change full position, which has caused again this gap that we have seen between Weezer and Chabelle. But it has increased a tiny bit of about 4/10, but obviously Chabelle being the quicker driver at the moment in time, we could see if any sort of bad mistake is made by Weezer, even if that's going wide or just going on the brakes a tiny bit too late, or even an oversteer moment, could be game over here for him taking P1. But being able to hold him off for 40 more minutes is going to be a lot of effort and a lot of skill required for it. But I reckon if he's able to do it, but we do see actually Chabelle makes a big mistake there going through the S's, which is going to lead Daniel Trembaglio by, and almost Craig Hill as well. Craig Hill not as lucky to get by 4P3 then. This has just thrown a huge spanner in the works here for Chabelle, and this is actually going to cause a bit of a breather moment for Weezer. Well, for at least a good few laps before these two having to start to battle with one another. In terms of their last lap times, we can't really use Chabelle's last lap time as a reference, as obviously he had that little mistake which cost him about 1.5 seconds. But from next lap, we will be able to use a reference time between them both. Doesn't seem it's going to be able to catch up significantly going on to what is going to be the lap 14. But if he's going to be able... See now, Craig Hill's actually going to be able to get past Taron for position. Taron not having the greatest of races so far, losing all those positions, but obviously all he has to do is persevere to get by, as we are now 8:27 in game time, which is going to show us that it is going to get darker quickly, and it is now going to drop a lot of track temperature quite quickly as well. Going further down into a Van Loo, once again all over the back of what is going to be Matthew Reynolds. These two have actually been fighting before, Van Loo obviously losing that position previously, as I was just actually trying to check if there is contact between both of them. There wasn't contact, I believe. I think he outbroke himself, and that was what caused him to lose that position. So he's actually being able to gain quite a bit of time going through the S's there, just because of how sturdy that car can actually be on those bigger curves, as we did see how much that car was shook there, the 992 going through the bigger apexes on the inside line of the S's. But now we do see how much time he's actually been able to caught up, and now hopefully we might see them go side by side, go into turn one. Are we going to see, or is he too far back? Does seem he's going to be too far back to actually try think of going for a move, and he is just going to have to tuck himself behind once again. Was that this is once again starting to pick up between these four. It's the tell having to break a bit later and then a bit earlier once again, and it just caused him to gain quite a bit of time there. Race 4 or P4, and that has gained him about a 5/10 gap. Now thinking of it, that now going further up as well, we do see Bartek and Driver we haven't seen actually today, fighting with Mark GG for position in the 989 Porsche 992. Actually, what we do see, Matthew Reynolds is well getting all over the rear of Van Loo once again for position. It's not going to be close enough, but is he going to go for a bit of a lunge? No, he is not. He's just going to have to tuck away once again and try again in another lap, because he's still going to be too far away to think of getting a move done going into turn one, the slipstream is not going to be that effective for him as well. Being in the 992, he's going to get the better acceleration off the corner. But in terms of top end speed, that Bentley will destroy it. Yeah, lost quite a bit of time because of that as well. Well, it goes side by side again. Was a bit dodgy there from Matthew Reynolds, but was able to work. And there's going to be retaliation once again going into turn 6. Do you see that Van Loo was able to get the inside line on quite a sharp angled corner, which was very, very effective, and was able to go straight back up in. Well, there's that now. Apologise, I had to plug in my other microphone because this one was going absolutely nuts. 29 minutes left of this race. Left to go. We have seen quite a bit happen because of that. But we do see now there has about a handful of people who have pitted. We do see Craig Hill has pitted and is currently net P1, followed then by, well, very closely followed then by Taron in. Currently P18, but net P2, who has also pitted for, well, I believe it's only going to be fuel here for him. As you see, there's actually quite a few people going into the pits as well, as you can see on the left hand side. Followed them by Gore and the BMW M4 in P3, who we haven't seen that much as well today. Actually, in fact of that, saying that, as we do see Mark GG and Daniel Trambaglio actually going to be in front of these two drivers, so they aren't going to be net P2 at all. We do see actually Taron might have not had the better idea here. As we do see, actually, Basari's going to get a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit limiter, in the pit lane, sorry. Obviously, unfortunately, just getting off the pit lane a bit too eagerly, or coming into the pit a bit too eagerly, and just, unfortunately, losing that position. And now Taron, now actually going to be able to regain that position of P12 from Craig Hill. You see, now Taron will be going up into net P1 in position, as it hasn't updated on the leaderboard just yet. Every sector, I believe, it does update. See that? That is going to be the Bentley of... Is that Weezer? Yeah, that is Weezer coming out of the pit lane. Has he been able to cut it? Yes, he has. This battle is going to continue for the rest of the race, it seems. Can we see Weezer being able to hold that position? But do you see Taron braking quite a bit later there? Almost hitting the back of Weezer's Bentley there. Weezer still being able to hold a whopping P9 there. Well, as that. Once again, getting closer than ever there, Taron, but isn't going to be close enough, as we have said earlier. It's just this repeating loop we seem to be stuck in between these two drivers, as we do see Taron gets very close, and then obviously, as an example, that makes a mistake. But unfortunately, then it's now going to lose the position to Craig Hill, most likely going into the final corner. But actually, there's still going to be a tiny bit of hope there for Taron, as he has the inside line going into the final corner. Speaking once again about that loop, we do see what seems to be these two drivers being in that loop because of both of them being in that same boat of being, well, you could say, the fastest drivers in the server. We do see Taron is actually ever so slightly faster than Weezer. In fact, in terms of best lap time, we can see that it is still going to be Chabelle who has the fastest lap time still of 1:31.3 compared to Weezer's 1:31.8. So there is still quite a big difference there, quite noticeable, of about 5/10. Speaking about it, which, yeah, again, thinking about it is quite a major difference. But with that as well in mind, he's just not as consistent as Weezer, it seems, which is just him causing... He would be able to get past quite quickly of Weezer if Weezer wasn't able to defend and be as consistent as he is being, as we can already see, once again, Taron being able to catch up quite quickly. Yes, we do already see the gap has decreased down to 1.5 seconds, 1.4, going through the mistake corner where he made a mistake last lap, which caused him all of that time to be lost. But that is going to be the corner which the Bentley is the strongest at, because it is able to use it a lot more. But that is a corner as well as obviously I was talking about turn 2, where you need to be very careful about with track limits, because it's very easy to get track limits going into those corners. But he isn't able to catch up significantly just yet. But this is going to be the McLaren's strong point, as we know, as it's all just very aero-reliant corners. Getting closer now to the 20-minute mark. We do once again see this battle is starting to occur again. But now it does seem Taron is stuck behind traffic there. Will the traffic make it easy for him at the moment? It does seem he was able to just keep the door open and just slide straight in. I do apologise if I'm going quiet at times. I am actually kind of struggling from sickness, it seems. We do see Jaden Eckering is able to get past what seems to be, is that Bockoven? No, that might be, I forgot who his name is, but it seems that is going to be, is that, who is that? Yeah, it's going to be Eklund for position. Able to just launch himself up Daniel Trambaglio on Craig Hill. Not sure why he's flashing that. So we will actually get a replay and seeing what happened there. Going into what seems to be turn 4. He does just have behind him. Not sure why he's flashing at all. That was a fully clean move. In fact, that was good racing to say the least. Maybe they were just flashing for friendliness, I'm not sure. But to see Matthew Reynolds, the only driver who hasn't pitted yet, now currently in P1. I'm not sure where he would actually come out if he doesn't come in. But we do see rain 30 isn't going to actually affect us. But that is quite interesting to see if that were going to be during this race. That's unfortunate that it's not going to affect us here for today's race, because it's always good to see when there's going to be rain during, well, the middle of the race when it goes from a dry track to a wet track, because it just opens up strategy quite a bit more and it makes it quite fun to watch as well. Does seem you now. Matthew does coming into pits to serve his mandatory pit stop. I'm not sure how many positions he might lose. He might go down to probably about P10 or so. But in terms of Bockhoven, or it doesn't seem he's had the greatest of races for him so far. It does seem his undercut strategy doesn't work as it probably intended it for him to work as. But currently, in terms of who is currently the biggest winner in terms of position gained, it has to be, has to be, sorry, Matthew Reynolds, who did go up 16 positions, but obviously that's going to go down quite a few now because he has just came into the pits. But it's going to be followed by a tie of the two drivers you see on your screen right now, of Tommy Griffiths and Mark GG, both having now 11 positions. Then it's going to be followed by Mickey Taylor with 7 positions gained since the start of this race, and then Eklund with 5, who's in the wall there. What has happened there? So we'll get a replay of what happened there, going on to what seems to be turn 4 and 5, going over that, wow, going over that apex quite heavily. Was able to stop it though. Very, very well done for actually being able to stop it there before going into the wall, but that was very, very close to the wall indeed. In terms of, unfortunately, the biggest loss in terms of positions now, so we do see actually there's going to be a side by side there with the Ferraris, but in terms of the biggest loss now in terms of position, it is going to have to be Basari, as we did just see. I think he lost that position to Jamie Edwards just then, with 13 positions, followed then by Jamie Edwards, who can also see who was battling with Basari a second ago with 11 positions lost, followed then by Salia, losing unfortunately 6 positions since the start of this race. Well as that, can see the current order of cars at the moment is going to be Weezer at the moment, currently in P1, but very, very much under pressure by then Taran Shibel in P2 with the fastest lap of the session with that 131.3 as I was mentioning earlier. Currently just 8 tenths behind P1 of Weezer, followed then by Daniel Trambaglio in P3, followed then by Craig Hill in the 888 BMW M4, followed then by Slatel in the 992 Porsche, followed then by Bad Wicks in that 992, not 296, sorry, Ferrari number 23, followed by the 992 Mark GG of the 989 Porsche, then followed by as well Tommy Griffiths in the 514 BMW M4, followed then by Emmanuel Son in the 167 McLaren, followed then by as well Kenneth Reyes in that 75 BMW M4, followed then by Van Leeuw in that Bentley Continental 173, followed then as well by what is going to be Jeremy Gore in the Johan Leisure Racing Academy in P12, followed then by Mickey Taylor P13, followed then by Anaka in P14, followed then by Matthew Reynolds, Munich, Eckering, Bockhoven, Edwards, Basari, Eklund and Sal Elia currently are top of our grid so far. As well as that, we can see Tommy Griffiths actually catching up with Mark GG. All of the rear of him now actually opening the door with Mark GG now going side by side into the start-finish straight. He is still going to have that inside line, thinking about it. Gets the move done there, so going to be retaliation from the Porsche Mark GG at the moment. It doesn't seem there is going to be. Seems well not. Jamie Edwards actually getting closer once again to try regain Basari's position. So it does seem he did just lose it to Basari in the following corners. Now just 10 minutes left to go with this race. It does seem most battles have disappeared. Bockhoven getting a drive-through penalty for, I can only think now, is going to be track limits. So that is going to lose him probably all the way down to probably last position, as we do see him going to serve it now. So Canty Kenneth Ray's actually going on the Magnusson full position, going in to the inside line, going into the start finish straight corner now. It's going to get a move done, but we can probably see Magnusson actually going to have to retaliate going into turn one, as it's still side by side between them both. Thinking about it, but he is going to have to drop back a tiny bit to try and get the slipstream. If he can try and retaliate going into the upcoming corners. You see now he's actually going to start creeping back. For some reason the Google Sheets is still uploading for me. I'm not sure why. I don't get why I'm getting all of the incident report stuff. But that isn't me issue, to be honest. Mr. No Game saying game over for me. I assume you're the car that might have disconnected, because that's the only person who has seemed to have, unless you're Bockhoven actually. If you're Bockhoven, that does make sense, actually. I think you might be Bockhoven, having that drive-through penalty, unfortunately. Going on to the final few laps of the race, unfortunately, does cause him to retire. As well as this now, kind of starting to create a gap for him on the Magnusson. Catching up with Mark GG and Tommy Griffiths there. Watching me out. Kenneth's BMW M4, you could just see the sparks flying up. I found that quite cool actually. Hopefully as well as this now, Kenneth being able to actually get past Mark GG could actually increase his points to the championships actually quite significantly. Because I forgot what the point structure is for this, but I believe going into the top 10 it does change per position quite increasingly. 5 minutes left of this race. Let's see him, Kenneth once again. Now actually starting to retaliate on Mark GG, trying to get this position done. Does he go for a switchback? It looks like he tried to go for one. Didn't actually work for him just yet now, as he has to tuck himself back behind Mark GG's Porsche 992 GT3 once again. Doesn't have that much time left to actually get a move done. It could potentially have about 2, maybe 3 laps to actually try to get this move done. Mark GG, all he needs to try to do is defend for that time. If Weiser was able to do it for most of the race, I'm sure Mark GG can do the same thing. Obviously, pressure does change on people and how well you can actually manage under that pressure. Mark GG, though, being up into P8 is a great position for him. Just has 3 minutes and 30 minutes to hold it off now, depending on the position of where you are on track. Can vary. So what's that now? Actually, it does seem Kenneth makes a tiny bit of a mistake there, which is going to be a bit of breathing room here for Mark GG. However, there's not much breathing room here for what seems to be, I believe that's going to be, I'm not sure who that is actually. Who is that? That has to be Munich, who just was able to get by in the final few corners of what seems to be Sector 2, going into Sector 3 now. Ekman getting a drive-through as well onto the final few laps of the race there. That is not going to be a great reaction coming from him. I'm going to see what happens. I believe he just goes a bit wide going on to, yeah, you can see goes wide, and he actually gains time to the fry of Onaka in front of him, and that's what causes his unfortunate position of that drive-through penalty. Obviously, we were predicting that we would see quite a few during this race, but we actually haven't seen that many. I believe we've seen 2 drive-throughs, 3 drive-throughs, 2 for track limits, 1 for speeding in pit lane. So not as many as I thought around such a strict track like Valencia, but it does seem people are going to be able to manage. But I assume quite a few people are going to be on the higher track limit usage compared to what others might be as well. That will determine pace as well. People just have to be a bit less confident going through those corners. Try not to risk a drive-through penalty, which can be catastrophic in this game, especially on the terms of Spa, Misano as well being quite a bad one. Indianapolis having such high duration time in the pit, even just driving it. However, Valencia, sorry, isn't that bad. Thinking about it, Mark GG though. Gonna try. No, it does seem now Kenneth was able to get by Mark GG for position in the final few corners. So we'll get a replay on what just happened. It does seem. Oh, it's actually going to be quite long away ago. It seemed going on to start finish straight. Nothing Mark GG could have actually done that apart from trying to defend the inside line at quite a higher cost. However, it does seem these two drivers once again go on to this final two here between these two. Matthew Reynolds being able to get the inside line once again, going into turn 4, turn 3 and 4. Going to go all over the rear end. There's going to be a tiny bit of contact between Mickey Taylor and Matthew Reynolds, but it's still going to be both of them working with each other. Does seem now the timer does go red as we do see Weezer goes on to the final lap, already getting closer to sector 2, I believe. Well, it's now Weezer going through the final corner to actually be able to take quite, I'm going to say, oh, Eckering getting a disqualification there. Not sure what happened there, but that's going to cause another person to retire. But Weiser being able to take the checkered flag in P1 there for round 2. I'm going to say it, a less entertaining race here, unfortunately. But you can't always have it all there, unfortunately. But it was more of a calm race for the drivers. Obviously, for the drivers, that's quite a good thing. But for commentary, it's not the greatest thing. But we do see now Bartek coming home to take P6. It's actually going to be quite a big gap as well. As we do actually see Kenneth actually going to try go for a switchback going onto the final corner. Maybe if he had the better traction go on the outside, he might be able to go for a photo finish. But he's not going to be close enough to be able to take P7 away from Tommy Griffiths. Tommy Griffiths going in P7, followed them by Kenneth Reese, who had quite a good race, actually followed them by Mark GG. Then Emmanuelson, Van Loo coming across the line as well. And again, there's quite a big gap between them both. You can see the next cars coming across the line as well. Through the final corner, Jeremy Gore and Mickey Taylor, and as well Matthew Reynolds and Munich and Unaka as well. Rounding out the top 16, and then we do see Basari, and we also do see Jamie Edwards, the two cars who probably haven't had the greatest of time for these two. See that? Basari taking P17, and then we do see as well Jamie Edwards taking P18 there for the Enzo Ferrari livery. In terms of what we have seen here today, obviously, as I was mentioning earlier, it has been a less eventful race, but obviously you can't have it all. And it was still good fun when I was able to do it. Obviously, I do apologise for the less amount of commentating that I have been doing today. I have came down with some sort of illness, and it is taking an impact to say the least. But in terms of what happens, as you see Open Lobby Racing saying, we step in Masterclass. Indeed, good to see him actually starting to make, again, an impact in terms of his championship standing, as we do see now what's going to be in terms of our next race. It's going to be Brands Hatch for another 60-minute race at probably one of my favourite tracks. All of the British tracks are good. In fact, in the entire calendar does look quite nice. Nice Brands Hatch, Monza then, followed by Donington, Cotter, Laguna Seca and Norwich for Life of rounding it out for another 90-minute race, which is actually quite a nice calendar if you say so myself. But I've been your commentator here for tonight, Aces, also known as Alex Newman. I will see you here for next race for round 3. But for now, I will see you guys later. Bye.